what's up? I'm Patrick, and today I'm going to be doing a detailed walkthrough of how to set up your own mission in DCS. This video is going to get into everything from what order you should add mission objects in, to alert states attack SAMs, to how to customize aircraft weapons loadouts, and everything in between. For this one, I picked a CSAR mission, and that's only because it allows me to use everything the game has. So I'll have tac SAMs, strat SAMs, tanks, OCA for both fighter sweep and seed, and even more. I also wanted to stress that this is really just for fun, and hopefully you'll learn how to make the most out of the game, but I didn't want to waste any energy on making sure all the terminology is exactly correct or anything of the sort, so please don't contact me to say, actually, based on doctrine, forces are rarely in that type of formation, because I'll just shake my head and ignore you. What I would like to hear about, though, is if you're more interested in the far-fetched comedy type stuff or the more dramatic, experimental, realistic stuff. Also, if you don't care about any portion of this, I have timestamps for the different parts in the description, so feel free to fast forward to any of those if you just want to get to the fun part. Either way, I want to get on with this, so I hope you enjoy it, and let's get going. Okay, so from our start screen here, of course the first thing we want to do is select the mission editor. So I'm going to do that and then wait for that to load. So you can see we go into the mission editor and it puts us straight into the Nevada map on here. So I had previously selected that. If it's a completely new mission, it might give you the option to select sides or also to pick a different map. But since I had already set this up, we didn't get that option. I also want to add that for this mission I'm going to be setting up today, I'm not planning on doing any of the flying. I'm just going to set up where the things are going to be and tell them what they have to do, and then let the computer do all the flying for both red and blue. Of course, if I wanted to, I do have the option to take control of any of the flyable aircraft and be one of the shooters myself, but then I wouldn't be able to watch and I'd have a limited picture of what's going on, so I'm choosing not to do that. Okay, so on this screen, there's a lot of options. I'm really only going to point out a couple that are most useful to you, and then later towards the end of the time that we actually have this scenario set up, I'll go through and explain all the other miscellaneous ones. But for now, the ones that I want to point out are these 5 over here. So these are the object buttons, and they allow you to add different items onto the map. So just as the icons up here, we have airplanes, helicopters, ships, ground units, which includes air defense units, and then static units. And then once we select these, we'll get further options to give them routes and speeds and altitudes and weapons, all those things. First thing I want to do, I actually have a reason and a methodology that I'll explain later for why I go in the order that I do, but I want to start out with, since we have a combat search and rescue scenario going on here, I'm going to put the survivor in the place that I want to put him. So to place our survivor, we're going to come over here, and where it says ground units, we're going to select that, and then we get a pop-up box for vehicle group. So the first thing we actually want to do is name him. So we're going to name him Joe. And that will be the name that he's referenced in all of our other boxes. So once we get that's important to actually name this unit, so that way when we go to select our helicopter and we want our helicopter to go pick Joe up, it shows up as pick up which unit, and then we can see that it's Joe, and it alleviates any confusion. So you also see on here, we have condition. He's going to be at 100% because he's Joe. He's going to be an American. And then we also have our category. So we have these options on here. It can be air defense, armor, all these things. Unfortunately, we're not able to actually pick a pilot. So the closest we can get to a downed pilot or an isolated personnel or aircrew or whatever the case may be is going to be a infantry, and then we have 2 different options for American infantry. You can do M4, M249. We'll just do M4 just because that's smaller. And then we have his name, so he's going to be Joe TAC 1. His skill is going to be average. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but it might matter a little bit when we get to the actual airplanes. But in this case, all he has to do is run. And then, so once we actually have all that, what we want to do is select his location. So I've thought about this beforehand, and where you actually do this is going to have a big impact on the rest of the scenario. But I have chosen to put him at the south end of this dry lake bed. So I'm going to go over here and just left click, and you can see that's going to put Joe on there. And then with that, that's going to open up this bottom section over here. So now I have these options that I can have him. First, I can add his route. So you also see on here these buttons that you see down here are important. So I can add or edit or delete some of the waypoints that we give him. So if I want to give Joe a waypoint, I can just go on the map and I can click, and now Joe is going to be running off-road. This is waypoint 1. I have a speed at 8 knots. I can tell him to speed up, or since he's Joe, you can't do that at all. And then the cool thing also with this is it actually gives you the ETA. So it tells me that from waypoint 0, his starting point, to waypoint 1 is going to take 4 minutes. And I'm going to use that, and I'm probably later on going to adjust where he starts out and where we actually want him to go based off how long we think that it's going to take him to do that. So, and then the other option that you have on here is you can do off-road or on-road. And then when you actually look at this map on here, we have this thin red line, and that gives us our ability to determine do we want to do, or the thin red line is actually a road on here. So right now we have them off the road, and if we want them to stay on this road, we can simply go over here, and then we can do on the road. We have the other options on here. We're going to ignore those for now, but I click on road, and that is going to direct Joe to stay on the road. So then if I add another waypoint and I have add on here selected, I can click anywhere on here and it automatically snap him to the road. So I clicked over here, and you can see that it automatically pulled him off since I have that selected on road. If I want to change that, I can do off road, and then from here, if I want to change where he is going to go, I have to do edit for this second waypoint, and then I can go over here and drag that anywhere I want. But in this case, I want him on the road, so I'm going to go back over. When I click on road, you're going to see that it'll snap over to that red line, which is the path, and there you go. So you also notice that Joe has his threat ring around here. That's going to be this red ring, and he can shoot anything that's inside of that red ring. Joe's not going to be doing a whole lot of shooting, but all of the ground units that we're going to have are going to have a threat ring around them. Aircraft, however, do not. So now I can click anywhere else on the map that isn't related. As long as I'm in edit mode, it's important to know that you're not in add mode. So if I want to, if I click away on here in edit mode, it just turns blue. If I highlighted that again and I forgot to put it in edit mode and I put it in add mode, I'm going to add a waypoint and irritate myself. So that's something you have to avoid. So I can go and delete that, and it takes that away. But it's just one thing to avoid. And then the other thing you'll notice is I put the survivor in place first, and I did that first for a reason. For many failed attempts at building missions in this game, I've learned that it works best to start with the primary target, in our case the survivor, and from that build out the threats on the red side. So once we've done that, once we've determined the threats on the red side, we'll determine the blue assets and the locations, and then put them in place. So that way everything fits together well. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so the guys that I want to put on the ground to go after Joe are going to be a Russian ground unit. So I'm going to come over here to the left. I'm going to select ground units again, and we have our ground units set up over here. So they're bad guys ground. This is what we name them, and they are going to be Russian. So now what I want to do is select what type of units they're going to be. So I have the option to select armor, and I want to do a T90 tank. So click where I want him to go, right about there. That works. And then I also want these guys to be on the road. So I'm going to select on the road for them. And then later, once I actually have the entire group decided out, going to actually create their unit, but I just want to come up with the units that I have now. And then also you can see the red ring around here, so you can see where the where this tank can actually shoot. And then so if I want to remain in the same group but have a different unit, I can do that as well. So this doesn't have to be just a tank by himself. I can come up here to unit, and you see this is 1 of 1. I can go over here and you see these two left and right arrows. If I click the right arrow on here, that's going to do 2 of 2. So you can see we have that, and then once I click that and added that second unit, I come down here and I now have 2 tanks, but I don't want 2 tanks, I only want 1 tank. And I want this second guy to be, we're going to say he's going to be an SA-15 because he needs to be a mobile air defense unit. Needs to give the air assets a hard time. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to select air defense, and that's going to open up all the air defense options that I have on here. So we have all these on here, and of course these are all, they start out with the NATO names, but they also have the Russian names on here. So of course SA-15 is Tor, 9 Alpha 331. So I can do that, and you can also see that it changed the, once I did that, it changed the icon for that. So he is now going to be the second unit in there. And then you also see that we're going to have these guys heading south, and I want this guy to be behind the tank. So I can do edit and then take that and move him back. So now he's going to be the second unit behind the tank since they're going to be moving south. And then I can also do a third unit. So I want just like an unarmored truck. So I can do unarmored, and we'll do like transport. Sure. No, we don't want that one. We want a, there we go. Yeah, a transport truck. So now we have these guys in place, and this is the group that I want. So I want to give them their route. So I already selected that I want them to be on the road. So I can really just kind of click anywhere down here, and I want them to go down to the south and go after Joe. So he's going to be down there, and you just click anywhere near the road, and it's going to snap the route to the road. One thing to note, I have this dry lake bed down here in the middle, so that confuses things, and there's not really any road on there. So I'm going to go as far south or to the north of the dry lake bed as I can, and keep them on the road down here. But then once I get down there, we're going to click another waypoint for them. It's just going to do a direct route over there. It's going to put it on the road, but it's really just going to be a straight line. And then the next thing I want to do for these guys is actually give them like a task. So I need to tell them, hey, your job is to kill Joe. So I can do that by coming down here. You can see I have this option to do advanced waypoint actions. I don't have anything set up right now, but I can come down here and click add. And there's a number of things that I can do on here. So the first thing I want to do is perform a task. So I want to tell them, hey, go kill Joe. So perform task, and I want you have fire at point that I can do for like an artillery unit, but I want to attack a particular group or a unit. In this case, a unit is fine. And then it gives me all these options, and then the unit that I can come down here. The group that it sees is Joe. I said attack unit, but really it's a group, but it's just the one guy. So I can say, hey, the group is going to be Joe, and then Joe number 1, because he's the only one in the group, and then nothing else. So now I just told them, hey, your job is to go down and kill Joe. So that adds that, so I can go ahead and save what I have for that, and I'm happy with that, but I also want to do something else. So the default setting on here for our air defense units, our SA-15 is to basically be in a parked state. So what I want to do is tell him, hey, I want you to be ready to shoot at any time. So I'm going to come out over here and I'm going to do a new advanced waypoint action for him. And what I'm going to do is say that I want to set an option for him for his, not really his rules of engagement, but you have an option on here for alarm state. And I'm going to change his alarm state to red state. And that is going to have him with his radar on and his target acquisition radar looking for targets and ready to shoot at any given time. So that way he doesn't have to sit around and wait. So if anybody's starting to shoot at him, he has to go through the whole process to get everything ready. In this case, if I have him in red state, he's already ready to go and going to start shooting missiles very quickly. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add a strategic SAM. So in this case, what we want to do is we just want to throw an SA2 right around this kind of a region here, because ultimately what's going to happen in this scenario is we're going to have our guys taking off out of Nellis, coming up in this direction, and then ingressing from the south, seating this guy, and then taking care of these guys. And then once they're taken care of, we're going to have some helicopters take off out of Groom Lake and then pick up Joe and then take him back to Groom Lake, as you would expect to happen. So adding a strategic SAM, really easy. Decided I want to put it right around here. So again, we're going to come over to the left, select ground units. We have Russia selected, we have air defense selected, and we can do change this name to Bad Ground 2. And that makes it easier to remember because it's an SA2. And then on here, so we want to come down to the bottom to where we have our SA2s. And we have those down here. So we can see we have our SA2 launcher. The SM90 is what is listed on here. And we also have the fan song on here. So of course what we want to do is start out with our fan song. So I'm going to select that. We're going to say this guy's average because he's average. And I have him selected, so I can really just select wherever I want on this map to say where he's going to be. And we'll have him right in the middle of this diamond thing because that looks like a good place to have that. So go ahead and select that. The other thing I want to point out on here is this is a fixed unit. So everyone up until now has been moving, so they of course are going to be facing the direction that they're moving in, but and that wasn't really a consideration for the last couple of units that we had, but now it absolutely is a consideration. So we have to tell this guy which direction we want him to face, and that's really easy. We come up here and we do that. So right now he's on a 0 heading. But if I want him to head south, I can type in the actual heading over here where it says heading. But even easier than that, what I typically like to do is just drag this arrow over here, and I can move it down. So if I want it to be basically south, but just a little bit to the east, I can do that. So you can see I have him on there. So we have our fan song radar, and that's great, but we also need our launchers set up too. So just like whenever we did our other mobile units, go ahead and select the second one on there. It has a second fan song on here. Well, that's not going to do us any good. So we're going to come up here and we want to select a launcher. So you can see as soon as I select that, it changes the icon over and we have our launcher. So once we have that, and it, for whatever reason, actually gives you the option if you want these guys to move, and I can click that. I don't know where this thing is actually going to go, but we do have to, I'm going to delete that, and we do have to select edit so we can decide where exactly we want to put these guys. So I want, I'm only going to have 3 launchers on here, and again, I want these facing the correct direction, so I'm going to have them heading about the same way. I'm going to have this guy just a little bit further to the east because he's going to be on the east side. If I want another one, I'm going to select my unit arrow over here, add a 3rd unit, run edit down here, So I'm going to put him out in front, and then he's going to be facing basically directly south, and add a 4th unit again. We're on edit, and have this guy, and he is going to be basically to the southwest. Of course, I can sit here and add a whole bunch of units if I want to give this Fansong 15 launchers. I could do that for the sake of time. We're only going to include the 3, and I want to give my blue forces a fighting chance, so we're going to leave that there. Also, we want to do the same thing for our alarm state as the last one. So we're going to come down here, we're going to set option, we're going to do action, and just like we had on the last one, we're going to do red state. So that way they are ready to go as soon as we hit start. Alright, so the next section we're going to do is adding our aircraft. This is the longest and most detailed section, so I'm only going to do one set of aircraft that we have on here, and then I'll add the rest in post, and I'll just explain to you all the ones that I added and the options that I chose. So as you can probably guess, we're going to come over here to the left, and we're going to choose add airplane group. And like with the other units, we want to give this a name. So we're going to do Bad Air 1. So yeah, they're adversary aircraft, 100%. They're going to be Russian, and we want to select the type of aircraft on here. You also see that they have a task, but I'm going to hold off on that for a reason. But as you can probably guess, we're going to do a Russian aircraft, and for this one, I'm going to go with a MiG-29S. You also notice that in this list of all the aircraft that I can pick, some of these are yellow and others are gray. The ones in yellow, I can actually, if I choose to, fly myself. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not going to do that, but I'll show you how you do that. So I'm going to do the MiG-29S on here, and if I wanted to, I can come down here, and if I choose client, then that would actually start me out in the mission in that aircraft. Again, I don't want to do that. So we're going to do this one. He's going to be trained. And we have our MiG-29, and you also notice that with our task, originally it started out as CAS because we had an A-10 selected, and now it changed it to CAP because the task that you can do with an aircraft is tied to the type of an aircraft. So if I have like our MiG-29S selected, for example, and I wanted to do something that it can't do, so I'm going to select AWACS. You notice that it doesn't change because you can't do an AWACS mission with a MiG-29. It doesn't work, and the game knows that. So it won't let you select a mission that that aircraft can't do. You have some other options on here, so if you wanted to do the tail, you can do that, and then the radio. I'm really not going to mess with any of these, so. But then coming down here to the bottom, you have your options that we can select once we add that to the map, but we haven't added it to the map yet, so let's go ahead and do that now. Like I said, I want this guy to basically start out over in this basic region, and he's going to be doing a cap right around here, just in east to west, looking for anybody who might be coming up from the south. So I'm going to go ahead and just simply click right about here, and you can see, of course, that adds that in the area, and right where we clicked. And then you notice that I have all these options that become available for me right now. So I have the altitude, the speed, the Mach number, my altitude is tied to MSL or AGL, and then all of my advanced waypoint actions as well. Before we hadn't used these, but we also have our payload, our triggered actions, and some of our summary options that become available with these. We're going to use that a little bit. We're at least going to use the payload on this. But the first thing I want to do is set the altitude for this. So there's a fighter. He should be fairly high altitude, and we do have this set at MSL. So we're going to change that over to 25,000 feet. So we should do that at 25,000 feet, and also you notice that that changed our Mach number a little bit.
We want to keep the speed of the aircraft about what it normally would be, and if you get the speed wrong, then it's going to cause some other problems for you down the road. So we're going to change our Mach number. We're going to say like 0.85, and we have that 7 in there. I can delete that too, so that I can keep our Mach number and our actual speed consistent with that altitude that we have. And that's why I usually like to do the Mach number at the same time. So then the same thing at our, as we had on our ground units, we can go ahead and select the different waypoints. And I'm really only going to keep this very, very simple. I want this guy doing a cap, so I'm only going to do 2 points. So I'm just going to do one directly to the west here, and then another one over, say, about there. And because he's doing a combat air patrol, he's already set up to basically just do the east to west laps between his one, because we had his task already set up at cap, and you can see his advanced waypoint actions is going to be cap. So all he's really going to do is come over here and just do a cap between these 2 points, and we really don't have to do anything from that point. The next thing I wanted to do from here is we have to give this guy some weapons. So I'm going to come up here and select payload, and you're going to see my entire screen changes eventually because my computer is very slow. But it brings us over to this section of the game. So I have all these different options for which missiles I want this guy to be carrying. So he's got a number of different options. So we have our AA8s, our AA10 alphas. If we want to do all AA8s, if we want to do AA10 alphas, an AA11 and an AA8, we can do that. You can also notice I have these set up, and then I have the ones that I made because they're a little bit more standard that you see. Um, so if you want to, you can actually right click on any one of these and then change that. So if I want, we have our R27 Echo Romeo, and if I wanted to change those to say an A12 or our R77, I have the option to come over here and then change all of those. So if I want to do a weird mixed loadout like that, I can do that. For this scenario, I want to keep this fairly simple, so I'm going to keep it 2 AA10 Chucks, 2 and 2 AA11s that we have on here. And if you don't know your Russian terminology for those, it's a great way to learn that. Also on here, if we want to change the paint scheme of these aircraft, this gives us the option to do that. So we can come down here and click on that, and then do any of these. So if I want, even this is the demo flight. Yeah, you have the Swifts on here, and then you also have that one that looks like a pretty cool unit. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So that now we have one MiG-29 with 2 AA-10 Chucks doing a cap at 25,000 feet at 0.85 Mach over here. I want 2 of them, so standard, I'm going to select that second one, and now we have 2. I also want to be careful that when I select those, that it keeps all the same settings. So yeah, we also see that this guy has 2 AA-10 Chucks and. Okay, so as promised, I added all of the additional aircraft that I wanted in this mission in post. So very quickly, I wanted to go over those, show you what I added and what they're going to be doing for the mission. So the first thing is up here in the northeast, we have our 2 Su-30s that are departing out of Lincoln County
they're not really departing out of Lincoln County. The game wouldn't let me actually have them take off from the runway, just because Lincoln County isn't a big enough runway for them to take off, because it knows that. Typically, if it was like a bigger airport, it actually would let me do that. I've done that from Nellis and other airports that are bigger, but just wouldn't let me for this one. We can actually see their route on here. So those are starting out fairly low altitude and slow, and then I actually have them increasing altitude up to getting up to 25,000 feet, going almost Mach 1, 0.955 Mach. So by the time they get to waypoint 4, and they are doing fighter sweeps, so they are basically panicking, and they know that our blue aircraft are ingressing, so they're trying to get over to their assist the MiG-29s as fast as they can. For armament, I have them with a pretty robust armament package. So 4 A-12 Alphas, 2 A-10 Chucks, 2 A-11, and the 2 Sorbesia pods on the wingtip pods that those have. So there's 2 of those. Again, they're going to be departing out of Lincoln County. Also, you notice for Lincoln counties in red and Tonopahs in red, I have the other ones in blue. That was an option that I can pick, and the game lets you pick. So if it comes down here to like Mesquite, I can click on that, and if I want that to be a friendly airport, I can go over here and click blue, and you'll notice that that turned blue. Just for our scenario, I don't actually want this to be blue. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But for our scenario, I basically want our border to be right around here. So this line will kind of demarcate the border. So everything north of here is red bad guy land. Everything south of here is blue good guy land. So that's basically how I set that up, but you can customize that however you want. Next up, so for air-to-air and taking care of the adversary aircraft, I have a 4-ship of F-15Cs. So they are just east of Creech Air Force Base, and they're going to start out right at 30,000 feet, going pretty fast, 0.92 Mach. So they are going to fly basically directly north. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the adversary threat. So I'm expecting them to first start shooting at the MiG-29s, and then the MiG-29s are going to turn south and start shooting back, and then they'll react and do all the things. And then as that's going on, the Su-30s are going to show up and complicate everything. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of shape they're in once the Su-30s show up, and if they can actually handle all that threat. So yeah, see how that works. Again, there's 4 of those, and for armament, they have 8 AIM-120 Chucks. I know this says AIM-120 Bravos, but it's actually like AIM-120 Chucks for all those. There are AIM-9Xs in this game, and for whatever reason, it wouldn't let me add those onto the F-15C. So fine, be that way. We'll just stick with all AIM-120s. And then for seed, at the same time, flying right alongside not really right alongside, but separated by a couple miles doing seed things. We have a 2-ship of F-16s, and they're just going to be ingressing north, going into the mesh for the SA-2 here, doing seed things against this SA-2 that we had set up. Depending on what happens with those, I gave them some special advanced waypoint actions, so I specifically told them not to react to the threat, and I did that because F-16s are notorious in this game for as soon as they get targeted, dropping their weapons and running home. So I had to really specify that. Sometimes it just, even though I do that, it'll ignore me and they'll drop their weapons and run home, even though I told them not to. So, assuming they don't, and they actually have some weapons left after they do seed against this SA-2, I had them going up here, and hopefully able to do seed against this SA-15 that's up here. Again, it'll be interesting to see what kind of shape they're in, and if they are able to do seed things against both the SA-2 and the SA-15. That'll be interesting to see. And then, of course, this is a CSAR mission.
So we have to have somebody go over and pick up Joe. So we have a couple of helicopters that are taking off out of Groom Lake. So the first one in the main recovery vehicle is going to be a CH-53. You can see on here I have him taken off from the ground from Groom Lake. He's going to be coming up here. Just for planning and timing purposes, I didn't want to put him any further away or over in bad guy land. So he's going to have to come over these mountains. Truth be told, I don't know what the altitude capability again of the CH-53 is. So if he crashes into these mountains, probably means that he's not able to get that high. We'll see what happens. But yeah, he's going to come up here, and I tried to give him like a lower altitude part of the mountains, but this entire ridge is pretty tall. So bad news for our recovery vehicle. And then zooming in here, I had to do some trickery once he gets up to this waypoint where he's close to Joe. So the first thing I had to add a couple of advanced waypoint actions. So the first one I had to tell him to, okay, you have to land here. And then the second one at the same time that, hey, Joe is going to embark onto here. You can see embarking Joe. And then at the same time as that, I also had to tell Joe, once you get to this point, you have to go and, no kidding, embark to the transport and specify that it was going to be the CH-53. I have seen it before where like the helicopter will land and then they'll just stare at each other forever, and that's about it. And then I've also seen if Joe does not make it south fast enough and he's not there when the helicopter lands, the helicopter just leaves without him. So again, I'll be anxious to see what happens with that. Other thing you might be thinking is, hey, Statric, you have helicopters taking off right inside of a SA2 ring. They're just going to get shot as soon as they take off. I already thought of that. So you also notice I talked in one of the earlier sections of this video about timing and how important the timing is. So we have our seed asset that's coming in here. You can see over here his ETA for his penetration of the SA2 mez is going to be about at the 2-minute and 38-second mark, and he's going to be all the way up here at the 4-minute and 53-second mark. So if this guy is not dead by that 4-minute and 53-second mark, he's probably not going to get there. So with that in mind, I told our recovery vehicle not to start until 5 minutes. So for the first 5 minutes of this video, we're not going to have any recovery vehicle, and this is all going to be empty. And then as soon as we hit that 5-minute mark, he's going to magically appear and then take off from Groom Lake and go up to where we told him to go. And then, of course, our recovery vehicle is going into that area where we have that T-90 tank and the infantry fighting vehicle, so we don't want those guys shooting at Joe, and we don't have anyone else in the vicinity that can take care of it. So with that in mind, I added 2 AH-64s. You can see they are going to very closely shadow the recovery vehicle, their flight path, and their altitude. So they should be very close. Hopefully they won't crash into each other. Again, that'll be interesting to see. And again, I don't know what the altitude capabilities of the AH-64s are, so if they crash into the mountains again, probably means they couldn't climb that high. And then they are going to be coming up here. They're just going to be doing casts, so once they get up to this point, they should automatically be told that, hey, you need to go and shoot at bad guys. So they're going to go ahead and do that. So with all of that, that is what I have going on for our whole scenario. I understand that this is really simple, not realistic. There would be a lot more aircraft involved in a situation like this. Unfortunately, I have a 7-year-old computer right now, so trying to build a even vaguely realistic scenario would melt my CPU into a puddle. So this is about as much as I can do, and even as we play this, you'll see I'm going to have a lot of frame rate and rendering issues. Please bear with me. But yeah, if you have any other thoughts or want to see anything different or want me to try something, let me know in the comments. Not all of the threats and aircraft in this game are, state of the art and exactly up to date, but there is a pretty good variety of things. So if you have something you'd like me to try or like to see, please let me know. So.
Okay, so now all the setup is done, and we're ready to actually fly this mission, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to click fly here, and then I'll walk you through it with everything that's going on. So I'm going to go to F10, and we're going to see everything. So we can see everybody moving. Here's our F15s. Then we can zoom in on everybody. So if I hit F7, here's our SA-15. Yeah, he's getting ready. There's everybody else. I told them to stay on the road. They're not doing it. Why would they do that? This is not how that was supposed to go. Moving on. What are you doing? Here's our SA-2. Great job. And here's Joe. I also told him to stay on the road, and he's not on the road, but he's slowly getting there. Well, all right. Okay, first thing I noticed is you already see these MiG-29s that are starting to turn south. So I'm going to say they probably know that somebody is ingressing. So already having a lot of frame rate issues. So yeah, they're increasing speed and altitude to go down and meet these F-15s. And these guys are already spreading out. Yeah, you can see these two probably already know that the Su-30s are there, and they're already starting to shoot. Same AIM-120s. There goes one AIM-120. There goes the second one. If I want to, I can go ahead and hit not F7, but F6. And we can track the AIM-120s as they fly along. Go back to this view. See if these guys know they're getting shot at. It doesn't look like it. Or they just don't care. There's the second guy. Neither one of them are reacting. He's very slightly listing left.
That was your maneuver? Moving slightly to the left?
Well, I mean, we're not in the same place we were, eh? That ought to confuse him.
Yeah, but you hardly did anything. You just started listing lazily to the left. I'm pretty sure they can keep up.
Where do they go?
There they are. They're listing lazily to the left. Go left, left!
Boy, this guy knows some maneuvers.
And there goes his first shot. Interesting, he's defending and shooting a semi-active radar missile. What could possibly go wrong? So here's our first AIM-120. That. This might be a minute. Move back. And it appears as though the F-16s, okay, so he disappeared, so it looks like that guy died. Looks like the F-16s, hey, they haven't jettisoned their weapons, so that's good. But they are immediately jumping into the air-to-air game, which they're not at all supposed to, and that is going to screw up my timing for the helicopters to take off. So that's bad for me. Okay. Also, moving along, so we have these other two F-15s that are shooting their first AIM-120s and the Su-30s. We'll see if they seem to know that they're getting shot at. They apparently don't care. What's going on with these two Su-30s. Looks like we have one AMRAAM coming at them each. So you can find the AIM-120. Looks like that one missed. Oh, no, maybe not. Oh, no, they both died. So short work of them. So now they're back to the regularly scheduled program of doing what I told them to do.
You were serious about that?
Okay, well,
never mind that. I was expecting this dude to be facing the southerly direction. I don't feel like that is the case. Don't know why he's facing north. You all saw me. It was in the video. I told you how to make it face south, and it's not facing south, and that's going to make targeting hard for this guy. So, with that, our CH-53 is on his way. I think we might actually succeed in this mission, not necessarily due to the fact that we should succeed, just gross incompetence on all parties, and through that we were successful, and that happens. Yeah, so the reason they're not any closer is because they are taking it upon themselves. I never actually told them they had to escort the recovery vehicle, and that was really the purpose of them doing anything here.
I don't go to school and I kill people. Whatever, I do what I want.
Okay, so we have some Hellfires on the way. That is one way. And why stop at just the fan song? Let's go after the launchers too. As we can see, our seed assets up here from the view of the missile. We don't need those. And you missed. That SA-15 that is definitely ready, but didn't go to where he was supposed to go to. So the fact that he's absolutely ready at this point, not really doing anything for anybody.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Go, SpongeBob!
And you'll also notice that this guy is currently below 10,000 feet. Oh. So he's actually shooting at... Joe appears to be in place, and he is standing proud, waiting for recovery. These guys are like, I feel like we were supposed to do something else. Can't remember.
There's something important I was supposed to do today.
And these guys are just landing at Groom Lake. Yeah, dude, don't bother avoiding the prop wash or anything. Just, please don't land right on top of him. He's gonna spear him with the refueling probe. Yeah, this happens sometimes. How are you still at 89% RPM? You know, overall, I'm gonna call that successful based off the fact that Joe didn't die. We lost both of our F-16, our H-64s. They shot something. Just a terrible communication error between these two. Yeah, I said in the planning it's possible they might sit there and stare at each other. I'm gonna call this, you know, as successful as can be reasonable. Overall, not the worst mission